It's time!
Man, do I have a show for you today. On today's episode, we're diving into the absolute crap storm that is the NBA. Now, of course, this week you're getting 2 episodes. So on Thursday, you are getting a college football episode because there's way too much to talk about, and I'm not going to do a 2-hour episode. So today's episode, let's dive into the craziness of the NBA. But before we can do that, make sure you're following at TLR Podcast 615. That is TLR Podcast 615 on Instagram and on TikTok. I know I've been spacey when it comes to posting, but so have I been with the podcast. But now that I am back to full force, make sure you're following so you can stay up to date, watch exclusive content. Now let's get into the NBA. So I thought after this year's NBA Finals, maybe balance had been restored to the National Basketball League. Because the Golden State Warriors, they got there as a team that had been drafted and built up through the years. The Boston Celtics, for the most part, got there with a team that had been drafted and built up through the years. Finally, balance has been restored. Finally, teams that are doing the right thing the right way are successful. Golden State wins a championship. Boston gets to a championship. You see, when LeBron James moved to Miami, he made the league mobile. But LeBron James didn't dip to Miami with 5 years left on his contract. He didn't pout his way out of Cleveland, and trust me, I would have pouted my way out of Cleveland. First off, the city sucks, and the team sucks now that he's not there. They're getting a little bit more respectable. One of Tennessee's own Darius Garland just got a massive contract. So congrats to him. I have an autographed picture of him on my wall. He was supposed to come on the podcast and stood me up. Not that I'm salty or anything. But LeBron James didn't hold the league hostage and say, if you don't let me play where I say so, I'm never going to play again. Hell, look at Kawhi Leonard. When Kawhi Leonard quit his way out of San Antonio, he at least faked an injury. And then he helped the management, and the management helped him, and they got him to a location where he was going to be happy, and they were going to be happy with the severance package. So I say all of that to say this: Kevin Durant has ruined the National Basketball League. Ruined it. He has held a gun to the NBA executives' heads and the players' heads, and he is holding everybody hostage. Kevin Durant is quitting on the NBA, quitting on the Brooklyn Nets, with 4 years left on his deal. 4! Not 4 months, not 4 hours, not 4 weeks. 4 years left on a deal, and Kevin Durant says, I'm out, I quit. Let me go to another team, or I'm not going to show anybody my talents because I'll sit out the year. I'll pout. So I thought this year's NBA Finals, even though it was one of the lower rated, because no one gives 2 flying rips about Golden State or Boston, besides the people that live there. But I thought it restored the balance. I thought, okay, finally, the owners are going to see that these players can't continue to hold the league hostage, and that you can be successful by drafting smart, by getting free agents that are smart choices, by not chasing after the one guy, but chasing after the 4 that will complete a team. Because let's look at the recent track record. The Los Angeles Clippers. Now everybody, because Kawhi's going to be healthy, everybody's back on that. Everybody, every single one of you, and I know who you are. I've kept my names in my journal. You're all back on the Clippers bandwagon. Clippers are the favorite to come out the West. Why? Please tell me why. What track record do the Los Angeles Clippers have of being successful enough to get out of the West and make it to an NBA championship? Oh, that's right, they don't have a track record. They keep getting bounced out of the playoffs, and they tried to buy a team by linking up Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. It doesn't work. I was one of the only people, and you can go back and look at those episodes on this podcast because I've been around that long at this point. But I said you cannot buy an NBA championship. You can't. Look at the Brooklyn Nets. They put together the greatest offensive trio in the history of the game. James Harden, at the time, unguardable. Kevin Durant, still unguardable. Kyrie Irving, arguably right up there with the word unguardable. Now, I don't care about injuries. I don't care about Kyrie Irving taking a sabbatical for 2 months in the middle of a season. I don't care about him not getting vaccinated. I don't care about James Harden pouting. I don't care about all that because you knew what all of them came with. You knew their baggage. And yet you thought you could buy a championship in Brooklyn. And so now all of a sudden Brooklyn basketball's back and all of these fans out of nowhere that were Knicks fans start to flip the hat around and now they're Brooklyn Nets fans. Well, guess what? That trio is now officially gone again. James Harden was moved in the middle of the season. Ben Simmons is now there, which if you want to talk about Ben the Bum, that's a different subject for a different day. Kyrie Irving, who basically quit on the team for the last 2 seasons. He was injured. Then he decided that he was not going to show up and get vaccinated this year. Then you have Kevin Durant, who's injury prone, has always been injury prone, and you're shocked that you paid all of this money and you're not getting the results. Because that's not how the NBA works. You cannot buy championships. Because at some point, at the end of the day, team and fit matter more than talent. There's been a lot of crazy talented teams that never won a championship. LeBron James in Miami didn't win a championship in his first year. That's how hard it is. But Dwayne Wade was already there. LeBron James linked up with his friend, and then they tried to build a team around them. And it was all done in free agency. I'm okay with free agents going with their friends to try and win a championship. That's fine. If I go to the YMCA with my buddies, I'm going to choose my buddies that played in college because I would like to win. But I'm not going to pull that move at the YMCA where I get there, my buddies are already on a team, and then I kick some poor, 9th grader off because I'm like, well, these are my friends, so you need to leave. He has every right. He showed up early. He played with them. I can't help that they're being successful. It is not fair for me to show up and just because of who I am, kick him off the YMCA men's squad so I can show these 10th graders what's up. This is what Kevin Durant has done. He has ruined the National Basketball League. I was really hoping that owners would wake up and go, okay, we've seen the model. You cannot buy a championship. You need to draft well. You need to trade well, and you need to have savvy veterans. And you need to have smart management. And you need to have great coaching. And you need to have a team, not a player, a team. You can build around a player and create a team. Hence why LeBron James is the greatest player of all time. Because everywhere he's gone, he's found victories, he's found championships, he's found success because teams build around one LeBron James. But you cannot just show up and say, well, I'm just going to, as an owner, I'm just going to buy my team and we're going to win no matter what. We don't need coaching. We don't need bench players. We don't need role players. We're just going to buy 3 superstars and hopefully we're going to win. It's not worked in LA. It's not worked in Brooklyn. And for some reason, the NBA is still on this giant mega team and everybody blames LeBron James. It's not LeBron James. LeBron James just allowed players to let them know, hey, you don't have to stay in the same city and be loyal to a city after your contract's up with that city. You can go somewhere else if you find more success there, if you're going to be happier over here. LeBron James played out his contracts. He finished his deals. He signed the contract, finished his 4 years, and at the end of the 4 years, if he said, I'm out of here, this place sucks, boom, he left. But still, we have NBA executives who go, well, if I just buy everybody, we'll win. Nothing else matters but those players. Not true. One or two players can be the difference in you winning a championship, but you have to have a solid base to build off of. If LeBron James and Anthony Davis went down to the Orlando Magic, if Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant went down to the Orlando Magic, they're not winning a championship. The pieces aren't in place. So earlier this week, Kevin Durant does what Kevin Durant does. Holds the league hostage, puts a gun to their head and says, I want out. 4 years on my deal. Not, oh, it's the end of my deal, or, oh, I have a player option, I'm declining my player option. Throws his hands up and says, I'm done. I've tried it. I'm unhappy. Boo-hoo-hoo. He learned it best from James Harden. Just whine and complain and bitch and moan and get your way out of wherever you want to go, or wherever you are, and go wherever you want to go. The players are finally more powerful than the organization, which I'm not mad at player empowerment. In fact, I think the NFL has relinquished a lot of the league to player empowerment, and they've found heavy success. It's highly rated. The players are starting to move. They're starting to link up with each other. It wasn't bad for football that the Los Angeles Rams got Von Miller and Matthew Stafford halfway through the year because LA was smart enough to buy those pieces. It actually made for a pretty compelling story and was fun to watch because there's a lot of variables that happen in football. Adding one quarterback is not going to automatically assume that you can win a championship. Otherwise, Tom Brady would have 25 championships for every year that he's been in the league. But player empowerment and player anarchy are two different things. Kevin Durant complains he wants out of the Brooklyn Nets because he just couldn't make it work, because he's not that guy. And I've said he's not that guy. He's never been the leader that you can put him on any team and make that team an instant championship team. Doesn't work. He's going to make that team a title contender, but never a champion. He's not proven that, so until he proves that, I'm going to stick with that theory. And I thought, great. Now that the executives see how teams that do it the right way are being successful, hopefully we're done with buying these mega teams. Nope. Kyrie Irving wants out. Kevin Durant wants out. And now the Brooklyn Nets are trying to find trade partners, and it looks like they're going to link up and someone else is going to form a super team. The Golden State Warriors are talking about getting Kevin Durant again, trading their young talent, and then having Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green run it back for the next few years and win a bunch more championships. Which I'm fine with if Kevin Durant goes there in free agency. I can complain all day long when Kevin Durant goes there in free agency and say, well, that's stupid, I wouldn't go there. Those are too easy of championships. They've been successful without you. But hey, that's his prerogative. If he wants to do that, if Adam Silver wants to allow that to happen and he wants to move off in free agency, more power to him. He's got his own legacy in his hands at that point. But not when he has 5 years on a deal or 4 years on a deal, does he get to complain and whine his way out of that team. I'm sorry. That's where the line gets crossed. These players have got to learn in the NBA, and this is why the NBA ratings continue to tank. Because they go, woe is me, I'm only making $59 million, trade me instantly because I want to go make $90 million on another team. Even though I know I have a legal obligation to you for 4 years, I'll complain and whine and show up to training camp out of shape and not play hard when I do get in the game, and I'll sit a bunch of games and I won't get vaccinated and I won't blah, 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 blah. That's the NBA. The NBA is the teenage girl whose daddy's a millionaire and complains when she gets the wrong color Lamborghini for her birthday. Well, I wanted the red one, not the pink one. These NBA players are literally holding the league hostage. So Kevin Durant, he's getting out of Brooklyn. Kyrie Irving, he's getting out of Brooklyn. James Harden, he opted out of his deal. He says that it's to it's to help the 76ers move some numbers around so they can get some pieces around James Harden and they can finally make that a championship squad. That's yet to be seen. Knowing his track record, he'll get tired and he'll get moody from being in Philadelphia too long. Oh, well, is this the same $300 steak that I had last Tuesday? Well, I should probably leave Philadelphia and see if there's a better steak somewhere else. Muh. So the National Basketball League is on verge of being ruined. It is. This is not me being dramatic. 100%, the ratings continue to tank. The players continue to be overpowered. The teams are continually held hostage. Owners don't run the league anymore. Players do. And I think that the smart way to do it is to find some balance. Find some common ground. But there isn't. You have players opting out of deals with 4 years left. You have organizations who won't find any kind of common leeway with the players that do deserve to have that. And so when they both agree like, hey, you deserve to be able to move on, you've given a lot to this organization, you still have ownerships and owners that are like, well, I'm only going to do what's best for us, instead of helping the player. And this is what you get. Total anarchy, total chaos. A league that is run by the players, a league that is losing ratings, a league that takes political stances continually instead of keeping sports subjective. Look at the UFC. The UFC never makes a political stance, but they allow their players to be political. That's the model everybody should be following, because there's people of all kinds of races, all kinds of genders, all kinds of backgrounds, Democrats, Republicans, independents that all fight in the UFC. They all make their own political statements. In fact, Tyron Woodley said Black Lives Matter repeatedly in an interview. And he has every right to do so, just as much as Colby Covington has every right to say MAGA in every single interview and every single press conference that he wants to. But the UFC doesn't come out and say, well, we're for this or we're for that. They keep their mouths shut because it's a business. They allow their players the freedom to be who they are, but they're not going to make the stance themselves. Great, that's what you should do. The NBA, on the other hand, has decided what's the popular voice right now? Let's follow the popular voice. Let's follow the loudest players. Let's put it all over our courts or all over this or all over that. And then they're wondering why their ratings continually tank, because you're not in the political business, you're in the entertainment business. But that's just a small detail as to why the NBA is continually failing. It's true. No one wants to turn on a basketball game to hear James Harden or hear Kevin Durant cry and complain about $50 million. It's just not enough. I don't think I get treated fairly. They owe me $90 million. No one wants to get on and hear all these NBA players say, well, I believe in this. Well, I believe in that. This is my political stance. No, your job is to shoot a ball through a hoop. You can have your own voice. But if the National Basketball Association is going to shove that voice down everybody's throats, don't be shocked when people don't like you. Don't be shocked when the National Basketball League continues to tank in ratings. It's just facts. The second the players decided to dominate the NBA and overrun it, it's like giving the kid the keys to the kingdom, man. It's like when you, let's put it this way. When you give your 8-year-old a Friday night, hey, buddy, tonight you can stay up till 11:30, and you can have junk food. Woo-hoo-hoo! That is the greatest night of his life. But now guess what? Every Friday night, that's what he expects. And that this, instead of the parent going, no, buddy, that was just a one-time thing for being really good and doing your chores and being good in school. The parents go, well, we don't want to upset the little guy. So they give him $10,000 and say, you'll do whatever you want. Invite your friends over. Do you want a new car at 9 years old even though you can't drive it? Why not? Because if we tell you no, then people are going to think we're mean. If we tell you no, then people are going to be like, oh, you have rules in your household? Yes. As the National Basketball Association, you are a company. You have an owner. You have owners. They should stipulate some rules. The players should have a lot of heavy influence on those rules. But you don't give the power to the employee, because if there's no captain at the helm, the ship's going under. If there's no singular voice that says, this is what's going to happen, this is the way it's going to be run, but I want to hear from all of you so I can be better at my job, then everything turns into chaos. Hence the National Basketball Association. Hence why we're at the situation that we're at now, which is Kevin Durant wants out with 4 years on his deal. Kyrie Irving wants out. James Harden's opting out. All of these players are complaining. Rudy Gobert, I don't even talk about that trade right now. All these players want out. And it's going to ruin the National Basketball League for the foreseeable future. If these players can opt out with 4 years left and get to whatever team they want to, via James Harden, via Kevin Durant, via Kyrie Irving, then the National Basketball Association's screwed. Giannis Antetokounmpo, LeBron James, those are anomalies. Players that are going to play, Damian Lillard. Players that are going to play to the end of their contract, and then if they decide to leave, go elsewhere. Or if they want to stay with the organization, will do so. There's no integrity to the game anymore. I understand with maybe a year left on a deal saying, hey, things haven't worked out the first 3 years. Let's find a trade partner. And then it's a mutual agreement, and they both try and work hard to find a trade that both of them can enjoy, or at least can find some sort of common ground where it's like, well, I don't love the idea of going here, but I'm not mad at it. They don't work in tandem. Instead, everybody just complains, and now the NBA is ruined by a bunch of overpaid crybabies who just pick up and go play with mega superstars. They're trying to create super teams. Twice in the NBA it's happened. The 76ers and the Golden State Warriors, and now we're back to that just repeating. And I thought it was over because of this championship. Perfect. Owners are going to see the error of their ways. They're going to see that you can't buy a championship. And nope. The Los Angeles Clippers are the favorites to come out of the West just because Kawhi Leonard's healthy now. The Brooklyn Nets right now are still a betting favorite because technically they still have Ben Simmons, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant still on their roster. And everybody's back to, well, just buy the team. Just buy the team. Why do you think Memphis is successful? Because Memphis has been drafting this team over years. Why do you think Cleveland is finally coming out of the dumps? Because they're finally drafting and doing things the right way, which is what LeBron James begged them to do for years. Why do you think the Chicago Bulls in the 90s were so successful? They drafted properly. They built their team smartly in free agency. Jordan didn't say, hey, go send me to the Los Angeles Lakers with Magic and Kareem. LeBron didn't say, send me to Kobe and to Shaq and create a mega super team that will never be beat for 10 years because it makes basketball uninteresting. It's supposed to be entertaining, not boring. If someone gives you the answers to the test before you take the test, yeah, you might find some success. But 5 years down the road, when you need that information for work, you're screwed because you're not actually learning anything. People find 1 ounce of success by doing it the wrong way and cheating and just hoping to spend a bunch of money to be successful. And that's never proven to be healthy. It's never proven to be a constant winner. It's never proven to have longevity. So yeah, if you're trying to buy 1 championship, you can gamble and buy a bunch of megastar pieces and throw it in Brooklyn. But chances are it's going to flame out 95% of the time. And it did. The Clippers, still, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, everybody linking up. They're going to make a mega super team. It flamed out. Even though they're coming back and everybody's back to be on the Clippers bandwagon this year. 1 small sliver of success does not show sustainable success. Because the statistics bear it out that 95% of the time you're not going to be successful buying a team. Just the facts. Now let's talk about where Kevin Durant would be liable. Where's the best place liable? Where he would be useful? We all know, and I'm not going to talk too heavily on Kyrie Irving, but the big question mark would be Kevin Durant for a lot of the teams. We know that Kyrie Irving is only going to play in places that he likes. We know that he is willing to sit out. We know that he is willing to hold a franchise hostage. We know that he is willing to not get vaccinated. We know that he is willing to sit out of basketball for 6-7 months unless he gets what he wants. We know that he's only going to play probably 50 to 55 games in the regular season. We know that he's going to, score a bunch. He's got great handles. We know who Kyrie Irving is, what he's about. So problem child for problem child, Kyrie Irving to the Los Angeles Lakers, Russell Westbrook to the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets would get an expiring $47 million contract. The Los Angeles Lakers would get at least a little bit better contract. Both players have their issues. Russell Westbrook is Russell Westbrook. He's going to play hard. He's going to show up. He's going to be a great teammate. He's not highly useful in today's NBA, a shooting NBA. He's going to have turnover problems. He's going to have shooting percentages problems, three-point shooting percentages problems, free throw shooting problems. You name it, he's going to come with that problem. But at least he's going to show up to work. He's going to work really hard. Kyrie Irving, you know that he's a problem. You know that if he doesn't feel like playing, he won't show up. You know that he's not going to work that hard. You know that he's going to rely on his skill to get him through a whole lot. You know that he is not going to put in the extra work. He's not going to be a leader. But when he plays, he is a top 5 point guard in the NBA still, whether you like it or not. And he's a valuable option for LeBron James and Anthony Davis to make another championship run. So problem child for problem child. That's not even one that's on the table right now. The only big question mark, because everybody assumes right now that James Harden is going to end up back a 76er. I'm not quite convinced. And in fact, I would think that James Harden is even thinking in his mind about joining up in the Los Angeles Lakers or the Los Angeles Clippers on a 1-year deal and try to push to win a championship with them. Just saying, I think that that's a very strong possibility. You know, he might take a 1-year player's minimum just so he can go win a championship, and if he plays well, demand a mega $5 million contract from somebody else. And with LeBron James getting ready to get out of the door in Los Angeles, maybe he tries to stay in Los Angeles and you run that big three of Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Anthony Davis. I don't know. But let's just assume he's going back to Philadelphia because that's what all signs are pointing to. The big question mark here is, where does Kevin Durant end up? Where will Kevin Durant be successful? And let's be honest, Kevin Durant's top 3 player in the NBA. I would probably go Giannis Antetokounmpo. I would go what have you done for me lately? I would go Luka Doncic and then Kevin Durant and then LeBron James. Luka Doncic at least is winning playoff series at this point. Kevin Durant hasn't done that this year at all, or this past season at all. Got bounced in the first round. At least Luka's getting you further. Luka got you to the second round this year. So, I mean, it's close. You have KD or Luka Doncic. Either way, you have a top 3 player in the NBA. If anybody puts KD over Giannis, you're the problem in this world, just so you know. But the big question mark has always been, now that he's opting out of his deal and quitting his way, we know that Kevin Durant is going to do what Kevin Durant does. He's going to beat to his own drum. So don't assume him to go somewhere that makes logical sense. So where would he be successful? Where would you like to see him play? The Phoenix Suns is always a big one. The Phoenix Suns would be great. I wouldn't give up Devin Booker. I would give up Chris Paul. I would pair Devin Booker, Payne, and Kevin Durant. I don't know if DeAndre Ayton would come back at that point. If so, see if you could work out some sort of 1 to 2 year deal for him. That's the team that would be very successful. Get rid of Cam Johnson. Get rid of Chris Paul. Get rid of... maybe Bridges has to go. Maybe. And then, 2 first-round picks. That's the package that would bring Kevin Durant in. Kevin Durant could walk on to a Phoenix Suns team that is willing and ready to win. Payne has shown that he can be a very effective point guard. I think you just insert him into the starting lineup. You've got plenty of shooters around him. If you can get DeAndre Ayton back, you've got rebounding, you've got size, you've got all the pieces you need. You've got a very, very good head coach. Phoenix Suns would be my number 1 option. My number 2 option, and most people would shoot this down, but we've already seen Kevin Durant do this. He lost to the Boston Celtics in round 1 this year. Why not join the Boston Celtics the next year? We saw him do it with OKC and Golden State, so why not just repeat history and go to the freaking Celtics? Jaylen Brown, Grant Williams, 3 first-round picks. Is that a big enough package? I would think it is. 3 first-rounders, Grant Williams, Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's a nice young piece. You can pair him with Ben Simmons if Ben the Bum ever shows up to work. Grant Williams has proven that he's a very good role player who can knock down the three. You have Joe Harris still. You have Seth Curry, if it's not demanded by the Lakers that he comes with Kyrie Irving. So you got shooters. You got Ben Simmons. You got Jaylen Brown. You're going to have probably a Russell Westbrook and Talen Horton-Tucker. Boom, that's a trade package that makes sense. Kevin Durant would do what Kevin Durant does, which is go to an organization that bettered him the year before, that beat him in the playoffs. He's going to be just as big of a crybaby if he runs to the Boston Celtics as if he went right back to the Golden State Warriors. We've seen this move from him, so it's not that far-fetched. So go to Boston. Boston's ready to win. You've got Williams down low. You've got Al Horford. You've got veteran pieces. You've got shooters. Peyton Pritchard's a decent piece off the bench. White is a decent piece off the bench. Like, those are good role players. If Kevin Durant is that guy that everybody tells me he is, he should be able to walk onto the Phoenix Suns or the Boston Celtics and instantly be a title contender and or win the championship. Straight up. Jason Tatum and Kevin Durant would be an offensive nightmare. Boston has a very, very good head coach in Ime Udoka. He proved that this year. They're strong defensively. They're strong veterans. They've got shooting. They've got the defensive player of the year in Marcus Smart. Boom. That's a title contender, if not my title favorite, instantly. Name a team that they would give problems to. Kevin Durant guards Giannis. Marcus Smart guards Chris Middleton. I like that matchup. They're coming out of the East for sure. If they were to match up against LeBron James, a Kyrie Irving, and an Anthony Davis, now things become interesting. That's a tough matchup. And I'm not saying that I would not bet on the Boston Celtics. Team number 3. This one's going to shock a lot of people. Go to the Los Angeles Lakers and pair up with Kyrie Irving and LeBron James and just swap the stars. Now, this is what I want to see because, of course, I'm a LeBron James thinking he's the GOAT. I like to see LeBron James rack up 3 or 4 championships over the next 4 years and then retire. So just for the simple fact that I'd like to see I loved seeing Tom Brady go stack up in Tampa Bay just so he could win a championship. Why not, LeBron? Go be the second best player or the third best player on a championship team and rack up 4 or 5 championships. Now the GOAT conversation becomes real interesting. Kevin Durant talks about how he loves Kyrie Irving. They're best friends. So why not link back up? Because you two are the ones that made this whole net prophecy move forward. You're the reason that the Nets did what they did to acquire both of you. You're the reason they traded away Jared Allen and Karis LeVert, pieces that I thought were great, is so that you two, best friends forever, BFFs. Let's go together to the Brooklyn Nets. You're the reason that happened. So if you're the reason that happened, why not swallow the pill of Kyrie Irving still and go directly back over and just trade the stars? Go to Los Angeles. KD and LeBron and Kyrie Irving, you can run it back with your duo. Kevin Durant could feel good about himself. Kyrie Irving could get redemption by playing with LeBron again. The Los Angeles Lakers would be very successful. The Brooklyn Nets would get a top 5 guy in Anthony Davis when healthy. The Brooklyn Nets would also get an ungodly amount of draft capital, and they would get Russell Westbrook. They would get Talen Horton-Tucker. They would get a Kendrick Nunn or whoever else that they would want to lump in. So they're getting young talent. They're getting a top 5 guy in the National Basketball Association. They're getting off of 2 players that don't want to be there for 2 players that probably do want to be there and would play there and would be happy playing there. Young players and a ton of draft capital. Makes complete sense. Complete sense to me, at least. So those are the 3 teams that I think Kevin Durant could go to, make those teams instant title contenders, and should win the championship on any 3 of those teams. Should. I don't see him going to Dallas. I don't see him going to Miami. It just doesn't make sense. The pieces that they would have to get up would make them not valuable for Kevin Durant to go there. He's not going to have a rebuild or to be the face of a franchise. We know that Kevin Durant wants to hide behind somebody. LeBron James would take the media pressure off of him. LeBron James would still be the face of that team. Kevin Durant could show up from his 9 to 5, ball out, be who he is. Kyrie Irving could show up or not show up. They wouldn't need him at that point all the time. They would just need him to show up in big game moments. And the Los Angeles Lakers would be happy. Kevin Durant would be happy. The Brooklyn Nets would be happy. It just makes sense. There's no other team that really comes to my mind where I'm like, it makes sense, and they would still be a strong title contender. Everybody else would have to give up too much. The Golden State Warriors is the last option. They would probably be the best option. If not, they are the best option. I'm almost 100% certain of that in my gut. The thought of him returning after all that went down, the thought of him going back to Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Steve Kerr, the thought of him going back there makes me throw up in my mouth, so I don't want to see it. Therefore, I'm not going to put it out there and prophesy it because I would literally never watch another game of basketball ever again. It was miserable when he was there. The drama was miserable. The Golden State Warriors are not likable when he's there, so don't even do it. Not even going to think about it. Don't want to think about it, although they have the best trade options. Andrew Wiggins, Poole, Weissman, 3 first-rounders, bam. They're back to being title contenders and title favorites again after they just won. Kevin Durant can go be the MVP because Steph Curry didn't want to shoulder the burden this year. He just got lucky. He'll rack up 4 or 5 more championships. And Golden State would be the greatest dynasty of all time. They would start to rival the Los Angeles Lakers. They would start to rival the Boston Celtics, and it would be hard not to put them above everybody if they win a bunch more championships. They'd be the greatest dynasty of all time. In recent memory, I would say they're the greatest dynasty of all time for the amount of wins that they had in the short amount of time. Now, of course, the Lakers and the Celtics spreads out over several years. But they would have, 8 championships, 9 championships out of the last 15 or something insane like that. Yeah, that makes sense. That would be legacy defining. But I don't want to see it happen. I don't. That's it. I'm tired of the NBA. Tired of watching it. Kevin Durant pisses me off. Kyrie Irving is Kyrie Irving. He pisses me off. Russell Westbrook might be the worst mega superstar that we've ever seen. I don't even know. At this point, I'm just complaining. The NBA needs to get their crap together. They do. You need to have another players association come in and have Chris Paul start negotiating things that will help benefit the players and have the owners start thinking rationally. Put the checkbooks away. Let's start drafting smart. Let's start building for the future. Let's start finding trade pieces that make sense. Let's not let the players hold the organizations and the owners hostage with 4 or 5 years left on the deal. Okay? If all that happens, the NBA can return to greatness. Make the NBA great again. But that's all my thoughts on it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Make sure you go on social media, TLR Podcast 615, so you can put your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear from you, the fan. What do you think? Where should Kevin Durant fit in? Where is the NBA heading with all of the ratings, with all of the players, with everything starting to tank? I don't know. It's a big question for another day. I will see you all on Thursday where we're talking about the NCAA and the teams that no longer live there. Once again, everybody, I'm Jacob Courtwright, and this is The Locker Room.